The old train station clock chimed midnight. Each chime echoed through the empty station, a haunting reminder of the hour, reverberating through the stillness. The platform at Briswell, usually bustling with life, now lay silent. The distant hoot of an owl added to the eerie atmosphere, making the silence even more profound. This was the last train out, a final escape from the town. The train stood there, creaking and groaning in the cold night air, as if it too was reluctant to leave. I shivered, pulling my coat tighter against the biting wind. The scent of rain was in the air, mingling with the smell of old wood and metal. Dark clouds gathered overhead, and the first drops began to fall, creating tiny puddles on the platform. A thick fog rolled in, shrouding the platform in an eerie silence. It was hard to see more than a few feet ahead, making everything feel even more isolated. My breath formed clouds in the cold night air, merging with the mist around me, creating an almost surreal atmosphere. I was alone. The solitude was both comforting and unsettling, as if the station itself was watching me, waiting for something to happen. The platform lights flickered, casting long shadows. Each flicker made my heart race, as if the shadows were alive. A sense of unease settled over me. Every creak and groan seemed amplified, making me jump at the slightest sound. The station felt forgotten, lost in time. The walls were covered in peeling paint, and the benches were worn, telling stories of countless travelers. I was starting to regret my decision to take this late-night train. But there was no turning back now. The last train from Briswell was my only option, my final chance to leave. The screech of metal pierced the silence. The train emerged from the fog, its headlights like eyes of a monster. It stopped with a groan, its carriages in shadows. The train looked ancient, a relic from the past. Its paint was peeling, rust clung to its sides. I hesitated, a shiver down my spine, but the wind urged me forward. The train doors opened, revealing an empty carriage. The air inside was stale and cold. It felt like stepping into a tomb. I settled into a dusty seat, the velvet worn thin with time. The carriage was eerily empty, the silence broken by the train's chugging. From the shadows, a figure emerged. A boy, about 10, walked towards me. He moved with an unnerving stillness. He stopped a few feet away. In his hands, a tarnished silver pocket watch. It ticked loudly, echoing in the carriage. The boy never spoke, his expression unreadable. His presence filled me with dread. I tried to ignore him, but his presence was suffocating. The pocket watch in his hand pulsed with a faint glow, casting eerie shadows. I noticed the hands on the watch weren't moving. They were frozen at midnight, unmoving. The train rattled, but the boy remained steady. His wide, unblinking eyes held a depth of knowledge. He seemed to be trying to warn me, but I couldn't decipher his silent message. The scenery outside was a blur. The train sped through the night, its rhythmic clatter constant. Darkness was impenetrable, save for occasional flickers of distant lights. It felt like an endless journey, one that seemed to stretch on forever. Fields and forests rushed by, indistinguishable in the darkness. The landscape was a shadowy blur. Silhouettes of trees or hills emerged and vanished instantly. The world outside felt like a fleeting dream, a mirage that could disappear at any moment. Yet I felt a strange familiarity, a sense of déjà vu. It was as though I had traveled this route before. The feeling was unsettling, a whisper of a memory just out of reach. The train seemed to be leading me somewhere significant, somewhere I was meant to be. Then I heard them, whispers, soft and mournful, carried on the wind. They were faint at first, barely audible over the train, but as I listened, they grew clearer. The voices seemed to come from all around me, echoing through the carriage, filling the air with their presence. They seemed to seep from the walls of the train, fragments of conversations, snippets of laughter, and a child's cry. The train felt alive, a vessel of memories and emotions. Each whisper was a thread in a tapestry of the past, weaving a story that was both haunting and beautiful. The whispers grew louder, swirling around me, tugging at my sanity. I felt a pressure in my head, a weight that grew heavier. The air in the carriage seemed to thicken, as if the whispers were trying to envelop me, to pull me into their world. I looked around frantically, searching for the source of the voices. My heart raced, and my breath came in short gasps. The carriage was dimly lit, shadows dancing on the walls. Every corner seemed to hide a secret, but I found nothing, only the echoes of the past. The carriage remained empty, save for the boy. He was pale and seemed to be listening to something. His eyes were fixed on me with an intensity that was both unnerving and comforting. His gaze held a wisdom beyond his years, as if he knew the secrets of the train and its whispers, secrets that I was only beginning to understand. The train was alive with the ghosts of its past. Each whisper, each fragment of a memory, was a piece of a larger puzzle. The train was a bridge between the present and the past, carrying the echoes of those who had traveled its tracks before. And as I sat there, surrounded by the whispers, I realized I was now a part of its story, a story that would continue to unfold with each passing mile. Panic welled up inside me. I needed to escape this nightmare. I lunged for the emergency brake. The train lurched violently. The lights flickered and died. I held my breath, my heart pounding. Slowly, the train began to slow. I stumbled towards the door. As the train halted, I threw open the doors and stumbled out. The fog had cleared, revealing a chilling sight. The once impenetrable mist was lifting, unveiling the haunting reality of my surroundings. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. I stood on the platform at Briswell station, frozen in time. The station, with its old benches and rusting railings, looked as though it hadn't seen a passenger in decades. The eerie glow of the lights cast long, ghostly shadows that danced eerily on the ground. The biting wind whipped at my clothes, a relentless reminder of the cold reality. It howled through the empty station, carrying faint echoes of forgotten voices, whispers of the past that seemed to call out to me. The eerie silence was almost deafening. Every creak and groan of the old station seemed like a thunderclap, telling tales of abandonment and loss. It was as if the station itself was alive, mourning its forgotten days. The station clock, illuminated by a flickering lamppost, chimed once. Midnight. The sound was sharp and clear, cutting through the silence like a knife through butter. The train was gone, vanished without a trace. The tracks, once bustling with activity, now lay empty and desolate, a stark reminder of the passage of time. I was alone, just as I had been when this nightmare began. The loneliness was palpable, a heavy weight pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Had it all been a dream? The thought echoed in my mind, a desperate plea for normalcy. But the cold reality of the station told a different story, one that was hard to ignore. A figment of my imagination? I wished it were so. But the details were too vivid, too precise to be mere figments. Every shadow, every sound was etched into my memory. I glanced down at my hand, still trembling from the encounter. The tremor was a physical manifestation of the fear and uncertainty that gripped me, a reminder of the surreal experience I was living. In my palm, etched in fine detail, was a tiny clock face. The intricate design was both beautiful and terrifying, a symbol of the time that had slipped through my fingers, a haunting reminder of my predicament. Its hands were frozen at midnight. The frozen hands of the clock were a chilling reminder that time had stopped, trapping me in this moment, in this eerie, timeless place. A wave of nausea washed over me. I was trapped in a never-ending loop, destined to ride the last train from Briswell forever. The boy, the watch, and the whispers, they were all part of this cycle. And I was the newest passenger, condemned to this nightmarish journey. The wind howled, a mournful symphony for lost souls. The last train from Briswell had arrived, and I was finally home.